Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm starting a new reading vlog, this time for a really special new project, a Great Minds Think Alike project that I'm doing with my wonderful friend Cynthia at Book Whimsy, who I will link below. Cynthia and I are constantly picking up books that we've heard about from each other. We have such similar taste that we thought it would be so much fun to choose TBRs for each other for June. And so we've each chosen 5 books for each other that we're going to read, and I'm so excited about the books that she has chosen for me. So I will go ahead and insert here Cynthia telling all about the books that she's chosen for me, and then I will check in with you throughout this vlog to kind of update you as I read through the books and insert some life clips as well. So I hope you will have a fun time joining me for this project.
Hi everyone, I'm Cynthia and I picked 5 books for Shannon to read and try out. I'm going to start with the first one that I think she is most likely to DNF. This is Acting on Impulse by Mia Sosa. So this is one of my favorite romance novels. And so I'm hoping Shannon will like it, of course, but there's a couple of reasons why I think she might DNF this. One, because it's a Hollywood like actor trope, and also because Mia Sosa writes really spicy scenes. And so I don't know exactly how Shannon will do with this, but I picked it because it's Mia Sosa, and I don't think Shannon has read anything by Mia Sosa. And so I just wanted to see how she did with this one. Next on the list is one that I think she's gonna like. This is The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. So I read this when I first got into BookTube, and I really liked it. It's short, it's got a lot of heart, and it deals with difficult topics, and those are things that Shannon really tends to like in books. So I have a feeling that she is gonna like this one, but we'll see. Then I picked one that is pretty much guaranteed to work for Shannon in some way, and that is Pasty by Nicole Dennis-Benn. So I know that Shannon has already read Nicole Dennis-Benn, and this is, I believe this is Dennis-Benn's latest book. Either way, there are themes here of immigration, of motherhood, of queerness, all themes that I already know Shannon likes. And I think, although this one's a little bit longer, I think she's gonna enjoy this one. Next, I picked a memoir, Mean, by Myriam Gurba. I think Shannon's gonna like this because Gurba is she's very feminist. She talks about empowerment and about how she basically found her voice and her confidence, and to not care about other people. So I'm not sure if everything in this memoir is gonna work for Shannon, but there's enough themes in here that I think Shannon will like in the story. And then lastly, I really wanted Shannon to read Witchlings by Caribel Ortega because I know Shannon's gonna like this one. I just know. Not a lot of people, not a lot of adults, I guess, read middle grade, but Shannon does, and I have loved every middle grade recommendation Shannon has given me, and this has all the requisites in good middle grade. It engages with difficult topics in an age-appropriate way. It's heartfelt, and it deals with important themes and does it beautifully. However, Shannon's not sure if she can get a hold of this one in time for the project. So if that one doesn't come in, she's gonna read Ghost Squad, also by Caribel Ortega. This was Ortega's debut novel, and it has all of those themes as well. It is dealing with difficult topics. It is very heartfelt. You're following 2 kids and kind of the ghosts that appear. This one, I think, because it's the debut novel, it's a little bit less impressive than Witchlings. I was just so impressed with Witchlings, but so I'm gonna wait and see what Shannon has to say about Ghost Squad. So I think overall she's probably gonna like it, but there might be a few issues she has with it. Either way, it's kind of a fun book. So those are the books I picked for Shannon, and let's see how she does with them.
Okay, so I am about 30% through both of the first two books that Cynthia decided to pick for me, Acting on Impulse and The Smell of Other People's Houses. So I wanted to check in with you and tell you what I'm thinking about them so far. So for Acting on Impulse, this starts with like such a great intro. It made me laugh out loud. I really like the humor style in this story. This is a contemporary romance. The hero is Carter, who is an actor, and he's going to Aruba for a vacation, kind of incognito because some stuff has gone down and he needs to lie low for a little bit. And on the plane ride there, he meets Tori, who is a personal trainer who owns her own gym, and she also is going to Aruba to kind of get over not a great relationship. And she sort of said, I'm just going for myself. I don't want to get involved with anything. But they kind of hit it off and they start interacting and getting to know each other, although Tori doesn't know that Carter is this actor because he's keeping it under wraps. But they have great banter, lots of chemistry, lots of really funny interactions. I really like the humor in this. The action is a little bit much for me so far. There's just like a lot of bouncing around and a lot of kind of extreme emotions and reactions and some silly events that happen, but it's definitely a fun ride, so I'm enjoying it so far. And then the other book, The Smell of Other People's Houses, this is set in the 1970s in Alaska, and a lot of the characters in this are indigenous. A lot of them are dealing with some difficult things at home, like lots of poverty, alcoholism, domestic abuse, child sexual abuse, so lots of warnings for that. I'll put content warnings down in the description box below. But the writing style is really beautiful, and the way that it's giving you this idea of the whole town by each chapter being from a different character's perspective is really interesting, and just exploring what life was like in the 1970s in this small Alaska town. So I'm definitely enjoying that, but there's a lot of heavy content in here and also quite a bit of like animal death and kind of gruesome stuff. So that's a little bit much for me, but I am enjoying the writing style. Some of the characters' voices do seem a little similar, but we'll see as I go forward just kind of how that plays out. I'm definitely interested in reading more of this. So I will check in with you guys as I have read more of these and perhaps started some of the other books. Okay, so I have read a little bit more and I wanted to check in with you. I actually have finished The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock, and I really enjoyed this one. The writing in this really was very, very lovely, and I loved how this story of this community in Alaska, all of these teenagers, sort of was a patchwork story that came together really, really nicely in the end. A lot of the different teenagers' lives sort of intersected and wove together, and it was actually really, really beautiful. I definitely cried at the end. I did still have some of the same issues that I had in the beginning, with a little bit of more graphic depictions, especially of like fishing and hunting and things like that, than I prefer. And each of the teenagers' voices did sound a little bit similar, but again, I loved the writing style, so that meant that all of it was quite beautiful. And just this glimpse into lives of teenagers in Alaska in the 70s was really interesting. So yeah, this was a thoroughly enjoyable book, and it's not that long, so this was great. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars. Then I have made some progress on Acting on Impulse by Mia Sosa. I think I'm at about 65% right now. And this book still has a lot of that great banter. The humor in this really is very funny, but it also has quite a lot going on. It really does jump from scene to scene to scene, so many different things happening. So it's a little bit too fast-paced for me. Also, I think that there are some tropes in this that just are not so much my thing, in that there are some situations that the hero and heroine are put in that really I'm sort of uncomfortable with. They end up going back to Philadelphia from Aruba, and the hero gets the heroine, Tori, to be his personal trainer. He needs to bulk up for a role, and they enter into this, and she's super clear that, you know, this is going to be a professional working relationship only, and he really wants more than that. And it's sort of like, it really pushes ethical boundaries for me in terms of the kind of working relationship they have, bleeding into more of a flirty sexual relationship. So I struggle a little bit with that, especially things like getting physical in a gym after hours. But I'm just like, are there not like security cameras or something? This is maybe not a good idea. So lots of issues for me there. But still, it's a very fun read. So I'm going to keep going and see how I like that. Then I started 2 more books. I started Mean by Myriam Gurba, and this is a memoir, and I really love the writing style in this. Her humor in this, her snarkiness is just so good. She's telling these stories. Right now I'm kind of still in the childhood spot. I'm like maybe 22% in, and she was such a difficult, angry child, and I love that. I love angry girl characters. I mean, she's a person, not a character, but I love that. And this whole idea of being mean, of just not accepting the kind of way that people treat you and being yourself and being out there. I really like that. It does have some content warnings though, things like child sexual abuse, so watch out for that. And then I started Pasty by Nicole Dennis-Benn, and I had read Here Comes the Sun and loved that before, and I knew that one was really heavy, so I expected Pasty to be heavy too. And it is. It's very much her style. It's beautiful writing, all of this imagery and kind of allusions to things, and the story of a woman who's stuck in such difficult circumstances, who is basically trying to get out of this life of poverty in Jamaica and go to the US, but she's so tied down by all of these things in Jamaica, her daughter, her circumstances, etc. And right now we're just at this point where she's trying to get out, and it's a really beautifully written story so far. So I'm only about 12% in, but I'm very much looking forward to continuing with this. So I will check in with you as I read more and see what I think. Okay, so I've read a little bit more and wanted to check in with you guys. I actually have finished another book. I finished Mean by Myriam Gurba. This memoir is just so good. The further that I read into this, the more I understood what she was doing with this memoir. It really is her talking about rape culture in the US through her experiences with, sexual abuse when she was a child, as well as rape when she was an adult. Definitely lots of content warnings for this one, but the way that she relates what she went through with also just the way society as a whole is, and her commentary, her political and social commentary, all done through this incredibly biting humor is excellent. I really, really enjoyed the writing style of this. I think it's so unique. And she's also somebody who's an artist, and so it's just beautiful the way that she puts things together. There's a lot of creativity in here as well as just all that commentary. I think that if you have liked books like Not That Bad, edited by Roxane Gay, or Know My Name by Chanel Miller, I think that this is another good one to pick up, just kind of talking about that through a very, very personal lens. So yeah, I thought this was excellent. I gave it 4.5 stars. The only thing that was a little bit rough for me was just how graphic it could be at times, especially just talking about things like bodily functions and stuff like that. It was just a little bit graphic for me, and I'm quite squeamish, but other than that, excellent, excellent book. And then I did DNF one book. So Cynthia had mentioned that she thought it was likely that I might DNF Acting on Impulse by Mia Sosa, and I ended up doing so. So I got to 80% of this book, and there was so much about this book that I was really liking. Again, great humor style, really good writing. But the further that I got in, the more I got frustrated with certain kind of interactions, especially some issues that I had with the hero, Carter, and some of his choices that I felt really crossed lines for me. Just some ethical lines where, he kept pressuring Tori, the heroine, to be in this relationship. But even past that, he kept crossing lines for me. And at 80%, there was just, kind of a peak in the action in the storyline. And he did some stuff that, for me, I just don't know that I can forgive a character for that. I think other people are fine. It's not like a horrible, horrible thing, but like I just have certain lines where I'm like, that's not acceptable behavior. And so, yeah, so I couldn't root for the hero anymore. So this was a DNF for me, but I do think that the writing is like a lot of fun, and I can totally see why this would be such a great ride for so many romance readers, but this one ended up being a DNF for me. And then I did end up making some progress on Pasty. So I'm now at 44% in that, and it is just fantastic. So Pasty now has come to the US, and she is really realizing the difference between the reality of being in the US versus kind of that idealized image that she had in her head. She thought that when she went to the US, she'd finally be able to actually live out her dreams and her desires, and she's just being hit by wall after wall after wall of rejection and denial and frustration. And she's trying so hard, but so mired in so many problems. And there's also just a lot of really interesting commentary about immigration, commentary about racism, about colorism, especially because Pasty is like darker skinned, and the friend that she went to visit in the US, Cicely, is very, very light skinned. And just sort of that internalized colorism as well is really interesting. There's so much about motherhood and about women who don't want to be mothers. One of the only options for Pasty when she comes to the US is to be a nanny. And, she's just so frustrated because she had to leave her daughter back in Jamaica, the daughter that she never even really wanted to have. And now she comes to the US, and one of the only job options that is open to her is to be a nanny. And it's just like that frustration, you just feel it. It's a very, very good book. Really beautiful writing, lots of interesting commentary. So I'm only, 44% in. I'm very excited to see where the rest of the story is going to go. Knowing Nicole Dennis-Benn from the other book I read by her, probably nowhere super fun, but I think it's going to be a really good read. And then I did start the last book, Witchlings, Witchlings by Claribel Ortega, and I was so glad to get this because the wait list for this at my library was quite long, so I wasn't sure I was going to get this in time for this vlog, but I did, and I got started on it. I'm at 35% now, and it is an excellent fantasy middle grade. So this is set in sort of an alternate world, and we're in this town and everybody's witches, and there's all of these different sort of like things that you do. And one of the things is when you're 12, you get sorted into a coven. And our main character, Seven, she is super excited. She wants to get sorted into her favorite coven. Every year, you know, the witchlings get sorted into different covens, and she wants a specific coven, and she wants to get in there with her best friend. Except at the ceremony, not only does she not get put into that coven, she actually doesn't get put into any coven. She gets put into this group of spares. And that was like one of her worst nightmares, and it happened. And now she's having to deal with all of that disappointment and frustration, and also trying to accomplish some stuff with the other two girls that are in the spares in order for them to not lose their magic. And so it's interesting kind of seeing where that's going. Lots of cool world building here, and interesting to see kind of how the girls are going to grow. So as I read more, I will check in with you again. Probably I'll check in once more to wrap everything up, but yeah, lots of good reading. Okay, so I have finished the rest of the books, and I wanted to check in with you and share my final thoughts. So I finished Pasty, and I loved how this book concluded. It's not only just such a beautiful connection to Patsy as well as her daughter, True, but just such a great exploration of a lot of systems in this book. There's so much social and political commentary on the situations that women find themselves in, where they're boxed in by so many expectations and limitations, and things like just generational trauma that is passed down and how that affects them. I just loved all of the commentary in this, and I was so deeply attached to the characters, and I was really thoroughly engaged until the very, very end, wondering what was going to happen, what was going to happen to the characters, how it was going to all play out. And I just thought that the conclusion of this was actually really just so strong. So yeah, this is another extremely solid book by Nicole Dennis-Benn. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And if you like literary fiction or historical fiction, I think for sure this is a really good one to pick up. Then I did finish Witchlings as well, which is the fantasy middle grade, and this one is just like that sweet burst of really adventure-filled middle grade fantasy. I think that the world building in this one ended up being the strongest part. I loved all the world building. There's so much in this, just things like toad racing that the witches get really into, and they have like a whole sports arena for, and just all of the festivals and the rules and the habits and all of these things. I loved the world building in this. The storyline itself was a little bit fast-paced for me at times. I think this is the sort of thing where an actual middle school reader would love how fast-paced this is. For me, it was just a little bit much, kind of jumping from one scene of action to another scene of action. But I loved the friendship at the heart of this. The three girls just formed such a great bond, and it wasn't an easy one. You know, I really liked that. I love in middle grade where the characters have to grow. The main character, Seven, has a lot of prejudices and a lot of kind of preconceived notions about some of the other girls, these spares in her group, and just watching them kind of overcome that and build friendship, it was really lovely. And there's bigger commentary as well about society and about systems of oppression and all sorts of things, so really good themes. Sometimes the book did go a little silly. Again, it's the sort of thing that I think a middle school reader would love, but for me, just a little silly and a little bit fast action paced, but even so, really fun read, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. So that wraps up all of the books that I read that Cynthia chose for me. I had such a fun time doing this project. It was so fun to see what books Cynthia chose for me and to get to read through them and see how they would work for me. By and large, just really great hits. I love Cynthia's taste, and this just worked out for me so much. And I can't wait to see her video with her reading the books that I chose for her. Definitely, if you're not subscribed to her already, check her out. I'll have her link down below, and you can see how she likes the books that I chose for her. This was just such a fun time. I hope that you guys enjoyed coming along with me in my daily life and also hearing about these books as I read them. If you guys have read any of these books, or if you think that you have some good suggestions for what books I might like, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you.